Hello viewers, welcome to Psycho Way Out Clinic. My name is Dr. Shide Sunday. I'm a clinical psychologist. Today we are going to look at a topic that is very important. Why do people forget, and how can one develop a retentive memory? Are you a teacher? Are you a student, parent, learners of skills, any tasks you want to learn? This video is for you. But before I proceed, if you are yet to subscribe to this channel, please kindly click the subscription button, share this video, like this video, and make comments. Why do people forget? And how can one develop a very powerful retentive memory? Factors associated with receiving, storage, and retrieving information in our brain is associated with memory. And the memory system exists in 3 dimensions. The encoding processes, where information is received from the external world to our system. The storage system, where received information is stored for time, being short time, long time, or as the case may be. And the retrieval system, where a stored information is retrieved for use at any point in time. Now, this system is grouped into 3 types or categories. And this is what we refer to types of memory, which we have sensory memory. That is the memory at the sensory level. What you see with your eyes, what you hear with your ears, what you perceive through your nose, what you perceive through your tongue, what touches your skin. And at that level, information are received or stored for temporary purposes. If emphasis is made on those received information at the sensory level, the same information is transmitted to what we call short-time memory. And at this short-time memory, information are stored for brief moments, waiting for emphasis. That is to say, if you make emphasis on those information, you pay attention to them, you revise those information, they proceed to what we call long-time memory. Long-time memory is the memory that stores information over a period of time. At this level, you can retrieve the information without struggle. You can retrieve them at any point in time because they are stored in a very permanent location in the system. Now, diving into the detail, why do people forget? People forget for several reasons. Reason number 1, due to decay of memory trace or disuse. Decay of memory trace or disuse. The memory, human memory, is made in such a way it's supposed to be in function, supposed to be in use all the time. So some people decide that I don't want to learn again. I'm an old person, or I'm done with school, or I'm done with this training, so I don't want to stress my brain again. Whenever you stop giving attention to learning a new task, what happened to your brain is called decay of memory trace. Decay of memory trace is all the brain tissue that are responsible for storage begin to shrink and begin to stop receiving any new information. And over time, it becomes difficult for you to retrieve or to remember even previously stored information in your brain. And that makes it difficult for you to learn a new task, and that makes it difficult for you to remember an old task that you learned. And the second point is systematic distortion of memory trace. What is systematic distortion of memory trace? Systematic distortion of memory trace simply refers to when a situation when we distort information, original information, in trying to suit our desire, in trying to suit what we think it should be. This occurs mostly when learning new tasks. Sometimes we try to learn something in the way we think we want to learn it. Example, you want to learn alphabet from A to Z. The presentation is from A to Z. Now on your own, you decided that let me start learning from Z to A. or let me start from Y to Z and from Y to A. Now, by doing that, you are indirectly distorting the original arrangement of that task. So over time, it affects you when you want to recall that information, because the arrangement is being distorted from the original, and therefore that situation affects your ability to remember the task. The third point is physical accident. Now you agree with me that ability to store information and recall is in connection with what we call nervous system. Nervous system. So any part of the nervous system that is affected as a result of accident is capable of making one not to be able to remember any information. And by means of introduction, nervous system is just the system that controls most of the function in the body. More especially, is divided into two. Divided into central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. The peripheral nervous system is subdivided into two: somatic peripheral nervous system and autonomic peripheral nervous system. Now, autonomic peripheral nervous system is subdivided into two. That is sympathetic and parasympathetic. These are aspects of the nervous system that connect to the sensory part of our body, that connect to our eyes, ear, nose, peripheral, the outside layers of our body. Then coming to the central nervous system, the central nervous system is subdivided into two. That is the brain and the spinal cord. The spinal cord is made up of the cerebrospinal fluid surrounded by 12 cranial nerves. That is the part of the nervous system that connect the peripheral nervous system with the central nervous system or with our brain. And the brain is subdivided into three major categories, though the division depend on the classification principle you are using. Now, first of all, we have a cortical aspect, part of brain. We have midbrain, and we now have subcortical. The subcortical, which others call it hindbrain, is that part of brain that is made up of brainstem, that is the elongated part from the central nervous system, from the spinal cord. We have the pons, we have the cerebellum, and then we have the midbrain. The midbrain, which is made up of reticular formation system, comprises of thalamus, hypothalamus, and limbic system. So the limbic system, which is subdivided into hippocampus, which is subdivided into also corpus callosum, and then we have amygdala. Then the next part of the brain also refers to the cortical part of the brain, which people also call it forebrain. Is made up of cortex, brain cortex, or cerebral cortex. And this cerebral cortex is divided into hemisphere, whereby we have the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. Each of these hemispheres is made up of 4 lobes: the frontal lobes, the occipital lobes, the temporal lobes, and the parental lobes. These are the lobes that are used to connect almost all the major functions of the body. Now, the collection of both central and the peripheral nervous system is what determines the function of memory at either sensory level or long-term level, or even the short-term level, as the case may be. Now, physical accident as a cause of forgetting occurs when any part of this system is affected as a result of accident. It makes it impossible for the brain to retrieve information when needed. Now, the next reason why people forget is emotion. The emotion here is not only focusing on negative emotion, maybe sad moment or a bitter moment. No, emotion here means the state of mind you're feeling at a point in time. If one is overexcited, that overexcitement can prevent you from remembering any task or any information you want the brain to remember. If you are overexcited, maybe you are angry, maybe you are afraid, anxiety, any state of mind that is excess is capable of preventing one from remembering a new task or a stored information. The fourth point is Zeigarnik effect. Zeigarnik effect. Now, this is a product of research that people tend to forget a done task than undone task. This occurs in such a way that people, in most cases, when people think that they are done with a particular task, I've learned this thing, I know this thing, they just drop it. They tend to forget those done tasks than the one they are in the process. I'm still learning this, I'm reading this, I'm studying this, I'm looking into this so that I will remember. So people tend to forget done tasks, a so-called perceived done task than the undone task. And that is why it's called Zeigarnik effect. When people term anything as a done task, they condition it in their brain that this is done. And over time, their brain begin to put it aside. The brain don't need to function to remember it. The brain don't need to struggle to keep it intact for retrieval. And because of that, relax of all the structure, of all the memory system towards maintaining that information. Over time, you discover that the information extends from the brain. So anytime you want to remember that information, it becomes difficult. And that's why you see very intelligent students will go to class and fail the exam, because he assumes that he knows everything. So even in terms of when there is need for him to rehearse, to read, to study, he read in such a way that I've already covered this. And you see a student that is struggling to read pass very well, because at that moment the brain is still giving it that I'm yet to know this thing, therefore I need to keep this thing intact, I need to keep rehearsing it. So anytime you want to retrieve it, the brain will bring it, because the brain is not relaxed on that task. Now the last point I want us to look is tip of the tongue. Tip of the tongue is another reason why people forget. Now, information are arranged in cues in our brain. The brain arranges information in cues. There are cues that connect one information to another. From A to B, something connecting. From C to D, something connecting. From E, that is something connecting from one task to another. So anytime any of this cue is not there, you discover that the early information will be forgetting, then the ending information also be impossible to retrieve. Now, that is why it's very, very important to reflect on this cue. Example, you want to remember democracy and the civil or the military regime. What is the cue that join democracy and the civil regime? You are trying to connect on peaceful coexistence as a cue that you use to remember the difference between democracy and military regime. When you forget this cue, it makes it difficult for you to remember the subject matter. How can one develop retentive memory? The first point is overlearning. Overlearning. Learn, learn, learn. Have more time to study. Have more time to learn the tasks you are learning. When you give more time to learning, what happens is you hardly have issues with cues. You hardly have issue with distortion of memory trace. You hardly have issue with memory decay. You hardly have issue with any reasons to preventing you from retrieving any information you want. Give more time and then study it well. The second one is meaningful organization of a subject matter. Attach meaning to the tasks you are learning. Yes, it's assumed that you are learning what you don't know. But in the course of learning what you don't know, attach meaning to what you don't know, so that you can what? Remember it. Example, you are learning a language you don't know before, but you know another language before coming to learn the new language. So if you are faced with a word that is difficult, attach a meaning from a language, a word that you know before, to that word before you now translate it into what you are trying to learn. Then the other one is use mnemonic device. We call it mnemonic device. As earlier mentioned, these are learning device you use to help your brain retrieve information for you. That is, attach some elements that can help you to remember this. It can be in acronyms. It can be arrangement in such a way that you can remember. You are trying to learn on something. Maybe you are trying to learn a statement or something. What is cell? Cell is the smallest unit of life. You now give each major word acronyms so that whenever you just bring this alphabet in line, you can now translate it to remember. You can attach meaning in form of sentence. You can attach meaning in form of alphabet. You can attach meaning in form of numerical figure. You are trying to remember A, B, C, D. You now use numbers to remember A1, B2, C, D, 3, D, 4. By remembering 1, 2, 3, 4, you now translate that into remembering A, B, C, D. That is what is called mnemonic device. The next point is working out of optimal size. You have to arrange your point according to parts, according to size. Don't just carry all the tasks you want to learn and study them at once. You cannot understand. Given the example I gave of nervous system, maybe you want to study nervous system, you have to what? Organize it in size by size. Organize central nervous system different, peripheral nervous system different. When you come to peripheral nervous system, organize it in such a way that you can now group autonomic nervous system and what somatic nervous system. Group it in such a way under autonomic nervous system, you come to sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic. Begin to learn how behavior in human body is heightened and how behavior in human body is taken low. Then coming to the brain, organize it in such a way, okay, let me group the brain into 3. Subcortical, midbrain, and cortical. Under cortical, let me understand the brainstem, let me understand the pons, let me understand the medulla, let me understand the cerebellum. You group it like that. You go to your cortex, you group it in such a way you can remember. Under the cerebral cortex, I have right hemisphere, I have left hemisphere. Inside each of the hemisphere, you group it. You say, okay, let me learn to know the lobes on each of the hemisphere. Frontal lobes, parental lobes, temporal lobes, and occipital lobes. You learn it. Is it the midbrain? Okay, this is the midbrain. Let me learn the midbrain. Reticular formation, under which I'm grouping to know thalamus, hypothalamus, and limbic system. You come down to say, okay, under limbic system, I need to know something like corpus callosum, need to know something like amygdala, among others. The next point is distribution of learning activities. You have to distribute your learning activities according to timing, according to the material that you divided. If you are learning a skill, you are learning how to couple a vehicle, an engine, you have to schedule your activities, how you can learn this part of it, how you can learn this part of it, when you can learn this. I'm handling carburetor, I'm handling the top cylinder, I'm handling the valves, I'm handling the injectors. You have to organize your learning in such a way you can always connect what you want to connect. When you want to recall, it will be easier because in your brain, this information will be organized according to these sections and these segments as you arrange them. The next point is sleep and rest. When you sleep and rest before you continue learning, what happens is information are transferred from sensory memory to short-time memory. Information that are in short-time memory are being transferred from short-time memory to long-time memory. So anytime you sleep, there is a shift in location and position of information in your brain. There's a shift from one level to another. More especially when you are reading, when you are studying. After you study, you rest, you wake up, there will be a shift. Information will move from one level to another. And always remember that if you succeed in shifting any information from sensory level to short-time level up to long-time memory level, you have succeeded in what? Getting that information permanently stored in your system. That anytime you want to retrieve it, you effortlessly retrieve that information. The second to the last point is recitation. Now, recitation has to do with you saying what you are learning over and over. As you use your mouth to say it, your ear is still listening to what your mouth is saying. It's taking it as a fresh stimuli. It's taking it as a fresh sensory memory, pushing it again to the short-term memory and redirecting it to the long-term memory. So when you recite any task over and over, what happens? The task moves straight to your long-term memory. And anytime you want to recall that task, you recall it effortlessly without struggle. The last point is motivation. Motivation, you have to put modalities in place to motivate you. Have to motivate yourself. I want to learn this thing. This thing is difficult, but I want to learn it. Why do they say this is difficult? People that are doing this, they have 10 heads. No, they don't have 10 heads. So I want to learn it. You must intrinsically motivate yourself. Even if people don't motivate you from the outside or environment, you personally have to motivate yourself. You agree with me that with all these points, overlearning, meaningfulness of learning material, using mnemonic device, motivation, sleep and rest, and all the points that you agree with me that using them will make you very powerful in terms of having a retentive memory, and it will prevent you from forgetting anything you learn. I also want to recommend this book written by my humble self, titled Simplify Psychology for Tertiary Institutions. In this book, you further understand the physiology of your brain, the physiology of memory, what it takes to even take care of memory in terms of situations that are pathological in nature or physiological in nature. This is Simplified Psychology for Tertiary Institution. You can have your copy. You can have a copy for your children. You can have a copy for your student. As a school, you can order for it for your postgraduate school, for your undergraduate school, for your diploma student, to give you insight on many important things that can brighten your understanding of memory and other aspects of learning. Thank you and have a nice day. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to share this video. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to drop your comments so that we understand how you meet us. Thank you.